Folks, every week I preach fiscal conservatism, social and environmental justice. And the social and environmental justice part of the message I think is pretty easy to understand, but I was asked by a listener, what do you mean by fiscal conservatism? Simply put, what I'm preaching is fiscal prudence, not overspending, for example. Rein in that credit card debt and get rid of it. I'm also preaching in the same breath the need to save for your retirement. But a third part that you may not know about fiscal conservatism is living by your values. I think that is extremely important. Identify those values, and through your financial well-being, contribute to those. For example, one of the groups that I think is very well worthy of that is Citizens for the World. Joining me in studio, President Wendy Nguyen of the group, and James Chen, Director of Technology. Welcome, folks.
Thank you so much, Timothy, for the introduction.
What is Citizens for the World?
Citizens for the World is a nonprofit organization. We realized that there was a need to promote poverty eradication in Asia.
Poverty eradication in Asia, okay.
There's a lot of attention focused in Africa, very, very well-deserved attention, and we just don't want our global Asian neighbors to be left behind.
Why don't you share with our listeners the truth about poverty in Asia?
Well, on one side, there's people who believe that, poverty in Asia is almost dwindling down. And on the other side, there's people who think that, the war on poverty will never end, and it shouldn't stop there. About 2 billion people, or 60% of developing Asia's population, still live under the average of $2 a day. And in addition to that, there's just huge income disparities within the countries that needs to be addressed also.
James, what are your thoughts around truth and poverty in Asia?
There's a lot of attention on China and India as their economy is growing very well, and that and it's true that they are improving, but one of the big things that doesn't make the press is the huge inequality gaps between the really rich and the really poor. The cities are very rich and they're prospering, but as soon as you start wandering away from the city, you'll see very quickly a drastic change in the environment as you walk into these highly poverty-stricken areas. And at the same time, I think a lot of people clump together Asia. They hear China and they hear India and they think, well, that's pretty much all of Asia. But there's still a lot of the southern Asian countries still have a large percentage of the population are in extreme poverty, and these people are barely surviving as it is.
I'd have to agree with James there, folks. I was in China summer of '06, actually, and yes, in Beijing and in Shanghai you will see a very well-to-do group, people who are extremely well-dressed with very nice vehicles, the latest in the Mercedes and Audi line. But when we went to Xi'an, there were beggars on the streets. How do you tailor a poverty program, though, to each country?
The solutions for eradicating poverty should be tailored toward each individual country, and as part of that is becoming more aware of the situation of each country, rather than trying to group it all together as one single large problem.
How is Citizens for the World going to make a change?
Citizens for the World, we believe that our voices is the power of change. It actually started with our campaigning events. And it still continues today with campaigning. We've had a first event in March, and it was an anti-poverty campaign where we rallied over 1,500 people with lots of community support there. It was at the Westin, and all of our campaigns are very innovative, they're very creative, they're very daring. It's almost they're challenging the perception of what traditional campaign is really about. And our short-term goals is to establish our fair trade initiatives and microfinancing. Again, it goes back when Timothy, it was a great question that you asked, that Asia is lumped together. I think one common theme that Asia has is that there's people there, and we invest in people. We believe that in Asia, there's full of entrepreneurs in the farmlands, and they just need an opportunity for someone to believe that their idea or their product can uplift them out of poverty.
Tell me about your thoughts on fair trade.
I'm a huge proponent of fair trade. It goes back to giving the people the opportunity to get themselves out of poverty. It's not a handout. You're collaborating with people in Asia and building bridges and giving opportunities to them.
How you would actually go about implementing something like that in Asia?
Our long-term plan for fair trade is to develop a clothing line, one that I love denim, and the Bear campaign was all about denim again. So we actually want to start a clothing line that would be focused on denim in some with that, we want to use organic cotton, which is eco-friendly, and also it's friendly to the farmers as well. So it's a social, environmental approach to doing that. And you know, on your jeans you get a little small tag that says like Gap or Old Navy or whatever it is. We actually want to construct a longer narrative piece to explain how your money helped fair trade and just the history about the organization and what you can do next. So it's more of an awareness piece in addition to wearing a piece of garment. And your donation, which is buying this product, you can actually use it, which is spreading the word to other friends, reading about it. So it's always a constant educational component that comes with our products or our campaign efforts.
Well, on to microfinancing. Same thing. How does it help in the battle against poverty? How would you implement an initiative?
And you know, microfinancing is really about empowering the people there and giving them a chance to grow out of poverty themselves. So kind of stimulating the growth within the country itself.
Yeah, and the farmers in Asia, because rural poverty is very, very prevalent in Asia, they're very innovative and they're very entrepreneurial. And actually a lot of farmlands and farmers group together to take like community loans. And from there they distribute among themselves and they create ways to make sure that, you know, their products and what they're doing really would help benefit the community and also themselves out of poverty. It's a very communal effort to get this going.
On a slightly different topic, folks, you had mentioned this isn't a handout, but a hand up. Certainly, we're not talking about charity. I know on your website you say philanthropy is art. Some people associate philanthropy, though, with a form of charity, but it sounds to me like what you're espousing is wholesale social change. Would that be accurate?
We strongly believe that everyone is a social architect, and getting people together and voicing our common concern for our global neighbors is philanthropy.
Well, let's turn our attention then to the marketing initiatives. Wendy, you had mentioned that earlier, and again, kudos folks on the Bear for Poverty campaign. It was good to see Yul again there in the paper. Folks, as you may remember, earlier this year we had Yul Kwan, the winner of Survivor, on, and by golly, I've got something to aspire to in bodybuilding now. Long ways to go there. But be that as it may, let's talk about other marketing initiatives. What do you guys have in the pipeline?
October 17th is the UN Declare Day to End Poverty.
Okay.
And in Australia, they actually have a whole week dedicated to the end of poverty. And we want to embrace that theme and inspire and mobilize people here. So that weekend, we're planning to have our next campaign.
An overview is that it's going to be dynamic art. It's going to be something that where if you walk in at 8 a.m., it's going to be a completely different scene by the time you go in at 12, completely different scene by the time you go in at 5. It should involve a lot of audience participation, which is something that we really want. We really want people to feel like they're actually involved with the art movement. To have people come in and be surrounded by this theme and message and also feel like they're contributing to it as well.
Aside from the obvious, what do you want people to do?
It's never too late to join the anti-poverty movements, and there's many ways to take action. One, like we mentioned before, is support fair trade and microfinancing initiatives. 2, it's just the power of your voice. Tell other people or research yourself to learn more about poverty in Asia and spread awareness through your own circles.
Final question, James. What really matters?
What really matters for us is that we want to eradicate poverty in Asia. And we want everyone to be aware of the situation. We don't just want people's money, we want them to feel involved and actively participate.
Wendy, what really matters?
For me personally, what really matters is the people, our global neighbors and brothers and sisters in Asia. I feel personally that poverty is just is an injustice at the core of it. And no one should be able to experience living under substandard, you know, not having any water, not having the opportunity to explore their own innovations. And we want to take action to make sure that these people have the ability to showcase that to the rest of the world. We are their voices, essentially. The media doesn't portray Asia anywhere, and we want to stand up and say that Asia needs our attention, and we together can cause great change in Asia.
Citizensfortheworld.org. Many thanks, Wendy and James.
Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy.